Well, hello again. I've already mentioned to you this staff meeting that we had on July the 7th. And one of the persons that made such wonderful sense was our dear friend, Jimmy Umlauf. And he said something about fostering a longing for the church and how a person who is stuck at home can be the church. Tell me more about that, Jimmy.
Well, you know, the writer of Hebrews says in chapter 10 that we're to stir one another up unto love and good deeds. And I think most Christians would go, yep, sign me up. I'm all for that. Well, in the same sentence, it also says that we're to encourage one another. Also, thumbs up. But in that same sentence, in between those two things, we're given the warning that we're not to give up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing. And so the Bible is calling not gathering, not meeting as a bad habit and meeting as a right rhythm. And the question is, how do we do that? I mean, here we are, basically our separation has been imposed upon us. How do we foster such a longing? How are we to consider it? Well, Paul says in Ephesians that God gifts the church with certain responsible people to do certain things. Apostles, prophets, evangelists, and they're doing these things. And they're doing something we are supposed to build up the saints. We're to equip the saints for the work of ministry. And I think that a lot of Christians, a lot of people would look at a church building and they go, oh, there's a church over there. Well, they would be right. That building is a church. They would go, oh, there's ministers in there. Well, yeah, we're ministers. We work in a building. But, you know, that's this much of it out of this much of it. Okay, we're to equip the saints for the work of ministry, and the saints are the ones who are doing the working. So how is the church to respond? I think the church is to respond in simple ways like this. Somebody pops in your head. I wonder how Bob Johnson's doing. Well, guess what? I think God might be burdening those people. But he might be putting a responsibility on someone. Hey, go call Bob Johnson. Anytime you feel, hey, something ought to be done about such and such, well, maybe that's God saying, you ought to be doing that. And so we're trying to equip the saints for the work of ministry. The work of ministry is way out there, just available for everyone. And so I would say, fathers, lead your homes. Parents, lead your homes and try to foster a longing in your families for the importance of the church. It's not limited. Our gathering is not limited to a worship service. Okay, worship services are important, but it's not limited to that. Rather, we're to feel this great burden for the necessity and the beauty and the sufficiency of the church as a means of grace.
So you and I are not the only one with ministries. We are preparing the whole flock.
Our ministry is to make ministers
out of
the sheep, the flock.
How about that? That's a lot to think about, guys. I hope you'll give it some thought, and then next week we'll talk more about it. You know that Paul spends 3 chapters, 1 Corinthians 11, 12, and 13. He's explaining this metaphor that he uses about the body, that the people of God are a body. We're called the body of Christ. And in those 3 chapters, he makes this, he teases out his metaphor. And do you understand the point?